I'll pass them out as we go so I don't confuse you guys. Yeah, I think it would be better. Okay, okay. Well, Letitia.
Leticia. Leticia. Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. We're getting ready to have a presentation by our sister Leticia, Dr. Leticia, inshallah, and alhamdulillah. But first, let's start by making dua, inshallah. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. Alhamdulillah. So yeah, Sister Letitia is doing on tracing your roots and building wellness. So I want her to explain everything because she knows it much better than I do. I'm going to learn. Hopefully you learn too, inshallah. So listen, Letitia, I'm not going to hold you up. Dr. Letitia, Bismillah.
Hello. Assalamu alaikum. Okay, so yeah, we're going to talk about tracing roots and building wellness and the power of ancestry trees and genograms. So what we're going to do is that I'll guide you through the process of constructing an ancestry tree and understanding the significance of a genogram and promoting health and wellness. So by exploring family histories, you will learn how these tools can enhance self-awareness, resilience, and connections with your heritage. So what are objectives? We will be understanding the ancestry tree. What that is a visual representation that organizes family lineage, detailing names, relationships, and generations. You will learn to construct this visual tool map and then map out your family history effectively. And by the way, since we don't have a screen, I could also email the PowerPoint slide to the committee, since this committee member is here, and I'll have the links to like websites that you could go to and everything like that. Some free resources. So about the genogram, it extends beyond basic family trees by including emotional relationships, health issues, and behavioral patterns across generations. Participants will gain insight into how to create a comprehensive genogram that reflects their family's dynamics. And then we're going to explore generational patterns. Understanding generational patterns is crucial for health awareness. You'll explore how inherited health risk and behavioral patterns can influence individual wellness and family dynamics, providing a protective approach to health, or a proactive approach to health. And then lastly, to identify research tools. So you'll discover various tools and resources available for conducting ancestry research and building genograms, ranging from online databases to community resources, and then enhancing your ability to gather valuable family information. So why explore family history? Well, it's to get a sense of identity, enhances self-awareness and connection, uncover family strengths and resilience, and identify inherited health risks. Let's see here. Gosh, I wish I had I have like all of these photos. So you guys are familiar what an ancestry tree looks like, right? My assistant Kamar, can you please come and pass these out? Thank you. So that's the Alburo model of creating a family tree. You always want to start with yourself and then like try to go like 3 generations to start. We all know that ancestry trees could go well beyond that. I think on my tree I have about 2,500 people on there, relatives and stuff. So I go pretty far back. I could go as far back as my 6th great grandfather, 1805. He was the first black man with an obituary in Kentucky. His former slave owner put it in the paper. He stayed with the family even after slavery. During construction period, I think, because he was in his 60s, he probably didn't think he would live that long. Because back then, it's like 60 was actually considered old back then, right? 50 would be old, but oops. He lived to be 1908. He was born in 1805 and he died he was like 100. Yeah, so he lived to be pretty old. So yeah, his former slave owner, they did an obituary for him. So steps to building your ancestry tree, you want to start with yourself, and then you want to work backward. I guess because this is being recorded, I should do this, right? Okay. So this is the Alburo model. This would be starting with self, your parents, your grandparents, your great-grandparents, right? You just want to get started, you just want to do who you're directly descended from before you start working on the siblings, because we all know once you go back like 2 to 3 generations, one person could have how many kids? 15. It just becomes a lot. So we just want to keep it really simple if we can, just to get started. But again, you want to work with yourself backwards, and then gather names, birth and death dates, and location. Location is very important. Not only that, you also want to, if you can, get the maiden name of the women in your family, because you could go further. You want to interview relatives for stories and missing links, because our people will take it to the grave if we don't ask. Seriously. My grandfather, he tried to tell me, it was like a month before he passed, he was trying to tell me, but at that time, I couldn't really understand what he was saying. It was like he was trying to rush it all on the telephone. And I was like, he was really trying to spill it all out and let me know what was going on in our family back in the day, because again, a lot of these stories, they could be hurtful, and so they don't want to talk about it, but for some reason he felt like he wanted to hurry up and just tell me what was going on. You could use online databases and archives and digitize and organize the information. If you could get a membership to newspapers.com, I get the membership 6 months at a time. It's like $59 for 6 months, but that is like gold if you could find obituaries in the newspaper, because it also links your deceased loved one with their relatives. I actually found out my great-great-grandmother, she had a son. I didn't even know that from from a different for another relationship. Back in the day when the women had children, and either they became widows, or they left their spouse and remarried, especially with if it's a boy, they would typically live with the father side of the family, right? Um, and so all of these years, I don't think a lot of my family knew she had a son. And I found it on newspapers.com when he passed away at 21. So yes, you could find a lot of things, and you could also find out how some of your relatives have passed away, because there are stories in the paper. Um, and you can learn about their personalities. I don't like to brag about this, but my family kept the newspaper popping in Kentucky. I know so much about my family in Kentucky because they always made the paper. So, and it wasn't really good. So different time, but the same stuff that you guys hear about today. It's just, yeah. So there's like free and paid ancestry resources. The free resources is like FamilySearch.org. I don't know if have you guys heard of Find a Grave?
Yes.
Find a Grave. It's a free website, and you could actually, so if you start your research, and let's say you have a relative who was buried at Haiti Cemetery in Ohio County, Kentucky. I just go by my experiences. I noticed that, first of all, I learned about that cemetery, and it was like one of the few black cemeteries for former enslaved and enslaved African Americans that were buried there. And because I learned about it, I learned that a lot of my relatives were buried there. Because sometimes you don't even have to go back and research. You could just look at all of the people who were buried there. They have like a roster on Find a Grave, and you can see like a roster of the burials. That's only if they have a headstone. If they don't, then you would have to rely on their death record if you could obtain that. And on the death record, it's important to pay attention to who the informant is. The informant will always be someone who's very close to the family. My great-grandmother was listed as an informant to my other great-great-grandmother, who I didn't know had a son. And I was just doing research on my great-grandmother, and I so happened to find her name attached to another death certificate. She was the informant. And her relation to him was sister, and I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know that she had this brother. So you'll be surprised for the missing siblings of some of your ancestors, because you'll actually discover them. The National Archives, they're okay, but I kind of find them very similar to Ancestry.com. Like what you find on there is you're going to probably find on National Archives. I personally haven't seen any difference, but I wasn't going to pay for that if I already paid for Ancestry. And then you got to go to the local libraries and historical societies, because not everything is going to be scanned in Ancestry or Family Search. Sometimes you got to go to, like, I got family from here, but they're in like Covington. So was it Newton County Courthouse? Covington, is that in Newton County? Yeah, so I would have to go up there. Also, once you find out, especially if you have family out here, you definitely got to go, because you will learn about the dynamics. I actually have a distant cousin who helped me. You're going to meet people who are doing the same research that you're doing. And I had a distant cousin that literally explained to me how things were in Newton County, and how my people, my family, how their land was stolen from them in Conyers. It was in Conyers. I had no idea. But they were getting a lot. Back then, I mean, to go to a doctor's appointment, have a doctor, you would have to have money to do that. And I'm talking about, these are my ancestors who used to be enslaved. And then, it was free. So it was a lot I didn't know about Newton County, and then like how they treated blacks out there as well. Paid resources is Ancestry. My Heritage, 23andMe, if you want to do your DNA, and Ancestry DNA. Both is okay. 23andMe is okay, but it's like people don't really socialize much on 23andMe. But on Ancestry DNA, you could find the trees, people's trees, like your matches, and then you could look up last names of people who you match, and like all these trees populate. So now you could get a good idea of how you guys are related. And if you don't know how y'all related and you reach out to them, they would actually, a lot of times they'll talk to you and let you know how you guys are related. So that's that. Assistant Kamar, come here. Go ahead and pass this out, please. Pass this out to your elders. Thank you. So like, for an instance, the genogram is a family map that includes medical, psychological, and relational data across generations. It is used in mental health, social work, medicine and nursing, education and family therapy, and the goal is to promote understanding and prevention of generational cycles. Okay? So for an instance, and I have this example, I really wish this screen was up because then I could have showed you guys. And here this is for the camera, but this is a genogram. From ancestry tree to genogram, the ancestry tree again is who is related to who. And then with the form that you got, the genogram is how family members relate and the patterns between them. So like if you used this form and started doing your ancestry tree, right? Like starting with you, your the basic stuff. Sorry, I talk with my hands a lot. The basic stuff, then you're gonna use the key to your genogram, and you're gonna start drawing the relationships of how they were with each other. Okay, this is gonna bother me. Sorry. Yeah, so this is going to be the relationship. So a genogram includes the emotional relationships, whether if they're close, conflictual, they were cut off, estranged, happy, okay, cohabitating, married, divorced, all of that. These are all the symbols that could represent that. Also, if you look on the bottom where there's the colors denoting addictions and medical conditions. So you could put a little square if you want to, and then like a red square outline would be gambling, addiction, or the orange square would represent drug abuse. There's alcoholism, depression, obesity, cancer, heart disease. Like you could entail one of these symbols or more than one of these symbols next to that relative. Also, you will see symbols denoting addictions and physical and mental illnesses. So there's other symbols that you could use as well. It's however you want to do it. You could even create your own key if you want to. That kind of resembles something like this, and you could establish relationships. This is your story, but that's exactly what it is. It's a story. So I wish I brought my whiteboard. if I did, I have an example of Luke Skywalker and his relationships. Like you got Luke Skywalker, then who is Darth Vader to Luke Skywalker? His father, right? I don't watch that, but okay, so and see, and I have the photo here, so it's like you see the estranged photo with all the zigzags from Luke Skywalker to the Darth Vader. You know what I mean? It's like you could see the whole story just by looking at a picture and not a lot of words. It's all a picture. So you could, by doing this, you will see the patterns, the generational patterns that stand out, and you could piece together how they impact health and relationships today. You could go to where I got this from is genopro.com. It's free. And they could even go even further in depth on how to do a genogram. Now, genograms promote health and wellness. How do they do that? They reveal hereditary medical risks like diabetes and heart disease. Ever since I was a teenager, I've always had like high cholesterol, and my blood sugar was always high, like ever since I was little. And guess what? I ate healthy, I was active, but that lets you further know that was what? Genetics, right? So do I have diabetes? No, but I've always, since my 20s, been hypoglycemic. If I don't have sugar, I'll start clamming up, start sweating, everything. But I don't have diabetes. But both grandparents from both sides have it. Both grandparents from both sides have it. Heart disease is big. It just runs in both sides of the family. You could also identify emotional patterns like anxiety, codependency, substance abuse. Because you have formed this genogram and you implemented it with your ancestry tree, again, you're going to see that visual. You know, some people have schizophrenia that runs in their family, and they may think, well, that's odd. But you had like an auntie that had it, a cousin that has it, so you're not free from it. You know what I mean? Like it happens. And sometimes like diagnosis like schizophrenia, it sometimes don't even show up until you're like 18, 19. It encourages early intervention and preventative care. So now that we are aware, and again, when you do your ancestry, if you don't know how a relative passed away and you start researching those death records, it's going to put it right there. Pulmonary embolism, pneumonia, heart disease, heart attack, hyperlipidemia, it's going to put like the causes of how they died, even back in the late 1800s and so on. It promotes family dialogue and healing. I can't express how a lot of our people, and I say African American community, BIPOC communities all together, we have a lot of intergenerational trauma in our families. My mom's side, they suffered Indian residential schools. That was terrible. So imagine a lot of natives who went to Indian residential schools, so they don't know how to parent, how to create their own families. So what happens to those kids? My people didn't get supports like that. So a lot of dysfunction, substance use. We're like number one in completion of suicide. It's pretty bad, and it's still bad to this day. Because the last Indian residential school closed in 1996. It was very recent. Right. And a lot of the indigenous people that were mixed was because their ancestor was one of the popes one of the clergymen, the Catholic clergymen. So it's really dark. It's a dark situation. And then again, now let's look at our African ancestry, you know, and what our ancestors had to go through and everything. So here we are sitting today, right? Like I'm the first in my family to be a doctor. And then like my daughter's like the first of her generation with a degree. Like we're like now we're the first of, right? But when you learn about your family and what they were up against back then, it builds that dialogue. It provides that healing. It opens up the door to like, you know what? I never knew why my grandma acted like that. But now that I've learned, and by the way, I learned a lot about her people from newspapers.com. Okay, like a lot of the women were murdered. Like it was really bad. And now I know why my grandmother behaved the way she did, because she always got upset with me if I was emotional, but you would get beat if you showed any emotion as a Native woman. But that's how they grew up. So she would yell at me when I'm in labor, and I'm like, what? You know, like what? Just leave me alone, Grandma. But that's what it was, because they were like, no, you're not supposed to. But that's how they were raised. And, you know, like we have our own things the way we were raised too. Like, take your shoes off at the door. There's a reason for that, right? Like, there's just things that carry on. And the only way we're going to know about how a lot of our relatives were, especially if we have internal conflicts with ourselves, you know, about our parents, about our grandparents, this is how you're going to find out, right? It builds intergenerational empathy. Okay. So when creating your own genogram, you're going to start with 3 generations. You want to include names, birth, death dates, occupations, and locations. You want to add the emotional and health information. Identify strengths and challenges. It's very important to do your research on where your family was, like the area, you know, the history of that area. And then reflect and share, if you're comfortable with anyone. But use genograms as a tool for growth and not for blame. And that's like the key, because like I said, we come with internal conflicts trying to figure our people out, our parents and generations before that. And, you know, we could become bitter and blame. But then when you do the genogram and you see like a solid picture of how these relationships were, you could create your own narrative of how you're going to break that cycle. Digital genogram tools. So there's some free and educational tools. You could go to Genogram Analytics. They have like a free trial. Analytics. Mm-hmm.
Is that going to be on
It's on the PowerPoint, all of this. Yes, I will. You know what? I'll send it to you, Brother Melvin. If you want, you could can you put the copy of the PowerPoint in the, like, below the comments of the YouTube?
No.
No.
I won't be able to do that. At least not with what I know now.
Oh, okay. Because you know, like how some people could put it in their YouTube? Okay.
And you would be better off sending it to Trent.
Trent?
Yeah, because he's more on computer.
Okay. Okay, we could do that. Smart Draw Genogram software. You guys have GenoPro. I would recommend y'all go there. It's free. I printed this for free on GenPro. They have videos, everything. And they'll teach you, it literally gives you instructions on how to do this. So, does anyone know now, like, what strengths or traditions have helped shape your well-being? Do you guys know that? Like, if you could reflect on your family and think about the stuff that they had to go through, how does that shape your well-being today? Go ahead. Yeah.
I don't know, I'm thinking, I was an only child, so that just cuts out all the other people, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But, in my family, it was kind of close knit, you know, and they stayed together from the time I was born until they passed away now. So that was a big thing, I think, for me, because a lot of times in my era, you know, there was all this mixing and matching. I call it mixing and matching, but, you know, it was sad. But, you know, that's just the way it was, you know, like the guy leaves the lady, they marry, but, you know, he's messing around with the lady downstairs. I grew up in the projects, so he's messing with the lady downstairs. She knows, and next thing you know, they finally, you know, they get to the point, you know what, you gotta go. Something gotta go. I'm leaving, you leave, whatever it is. So that type of environment, 14 stories, 8 apartments around or something like that, so figure how many people that was around. So that means, as a young person, I had to learn how to deal with a whole lot of different kind of people. Anyway, I'm kind of getting lost in my thought, but I learned that there's certain people you have to like, okay, hey, what's going on? And some people you can kind of like let into your little, you know, your little sphere or your circle, because they wasn't going to try to like use you. And so that was my growing up.
Okay.
Task. My mother was, I guess, most ladies are nurturing. I'm seeing that now as an older person, that the ladies are the nurturers. I mean, they just find ways after you blow up, if you have a problem, you went to jail, you did this, whatever you went through, they knew what to say at the right time to like bring things down and kind of think about, well, maybe I should get this, maybe I should get that. So that's, I applaud the ladies, I applaud you, I applaud the sisters, because that's just what I see. And like I said, that's just my opinion on ladies. But the education, it just adds it because you're able to articulate it in a nice way, which is important, because sometimes you got to get that information to the person so they can kind of, oh, wait a minute, hold on. You know. Anyway, I'm just running off, but I'm finished. Maybe somebody else will say.
Yeah, well, I think I was thinking more about my parents' thing, about being poor, and by not being wasteful. Like, so, you know, I do that, but my family I have now, I'm not used to all that penny pension and stuff. When I see the lights on, I try to cut them on. My mother's cut the light off, and you want to pay my $2 for a light bill on them. That was
Oh my gosh.
Don't run that
$2
thing,
for a
man.
light
Go
bill?
outside. But then grow, we had a garden and stuff. We always had fresh vegetables. We grew up on food. I can make a cod, stuff like that. That affected me in a way that try to not to be wasted. And I said, so much waste going on today. And as I read the Quran, it reinformed that about being wasteful. So I feel like they was on the right track on that, trying not to be so wasteful. And but money, you know, you save money. You know, you have to don't you always put a rainy day or something like that.
Right.
That was kind of instilled in me, but I don't have the support of my family what I have now, because they're way stuff. I used to tell my wife, she said, my mama did tell me I could cut off light every time I walk out the room.
Yeah.
But you know, things like that affect, but it's good in a way, and you can get through, if you can pass it down to your family, and see, you learn how much you can save and accumulate if you do them things. But it does take something economic and all that out your budget and stuff. You was start saying, but you know, I see food being wasted sometime, hot stuff, and I wasn't brought up that way. And,
Or food.
That was kind of in my genes.
Absolutely.
generations. And I was thinking about, you're talking about what makes you what you are today.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing came out in my mind was there was an emphasis on education in my background. And I still haven't really understood how my mother's mother went to college, and well, she was probably born like in 1895, and she had a college degree, and she was a teacher. She was an English teacher, a French teacher. It was language, some kind of language. And then my mother came along, and she became a language major. She learned 5 languages and taught in library science. And because she was in library science, she worked in schools, public schools, in the library and whatnot. It made me very mindful of
Right.
education. Of course, then, but when I was coming up in high school, it wasn't cool to be smart. You know, if you wanted to fit in, you almost had to go against something that you had always been, taught, And I think a lot of times, the people, the young people nowadays, they are influenced by the wrong values.
Of course,
And
yeah.
like John was talking about the money situation. I think when I was coming up, I was like so many people, they're black and white. It's got to be right or wrong. You know what I'm saying? But over the years, I have learned that you make do with what you have, and it's just as good. I remember Sister Shafika always tell me, you do what you can do and leave the rest to Allah. And I've come to understand that to be true. A lot of the old wisdom is just lost. And I think that's what we really need to do is look back. What's that, the Sankofa? With the bird that looks back to go forward? And I think that's what we need to start doing. I think this is an excellent tool.
Absolutely. And before we became colonized societies, right? It was always storytelling that went through the generations. In my culture, with the Coquitlam First Nation people, we know a lot from the things that our elders tell us. And when I say elders, by the way, because I be offending people that are like my age, but I'm like almost an elder, like 45 and up. So I have one more year left, and then I'll be considered an elder. But yeah, so so when we say elders, that's an actual respectful term. And but even in African American communities as well, when your elder is talking, what do you got to do? Right. And that's just to politely say it. Yes. And
We've lost all of that.
yeah, and so that is very instrumental. And it lacks today. A lot of that lacks. Yes.
I'm just piggybacking on what you're saying. That's
Camelback.
Camelback.
I'm gonna throw a rock at you, nigga. Still my friend. But we the boss too, right? But yeah, one of the things that I learned quickly was, my mother was talking to her friends or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
You say, excuse me, and if they just looked at you like, no, not now, they give you a look, and you just gotta wait. Unless you're dying, the knife is in you and the blood is dripping down, you say, hey, you gotta help me now. So call the ambulance or something like that. But if it's not like a life-threatening situation, then just wait. Just wait 10 minutes till they finish their conversation.
Yeah, I'm looking at my son because he need to hear that.
Yeah,
Yes.
wait a couple minutes. I know you wanna, hey, mommy, I wanna, whatever, and this, you want a cookie or you wanna go out or whatever it is, but that's not that important right now because you gotta learn this. And one of the things too, as
I give him the look of death when he walks in my room. I'm on the phone. I'd be like,
hey, come on, so that's very, very important. And what you're saying here too with this genealogy, and I know some of those, like they might go over that, but I didn't really understand that until I met this brother. He started telling me about it. He does a lot of that. And I actually went to try to find some things more. I got kind of like lost in it, but they're kind of opening up some things as far as where I can go to get some more, because I was only child resources. So I'm gonna like push some more with this, alhamdulillah, because I think it's needed. I look at a lot of videos and movies and things I read about the our history, and you can see it wasn't easy. It was not easy at all.
yes. Oh, hold on. Let me get with Brother Melvin real quick. He's been having his hand up.
I'll try to be brief as hard as it's going, but I'll is that because you asked about the well-being, and when I really look back on my personal situation, what I'm grateful for now, today, is really the fact that my early years, my great-grandma, she was Jamaican, and she is the matriarch, but she was the one that influenced everyone, I would say, that took us to church. Right? So, and although I didn't, it helped me for a while, but the fact that I had that foundation,
Right.
believing in God, all that kind of thing. And it was different, when I look back on it, the big cathedral kind of, Episcopal ideology and stuff. But I later on got away from all that. I became an atheist based on what I understood. It wasn't making sense no more to me. So around maybe 15, 16, my path began to get crazier because I stopped believing in all that. By the grace of Allah, I was shown another way that pulled me back and made me come back. So
Alhamdulillah,
I'm
that sounds
thankful
good.
for Islam, really, because Islam is really giving me well-being. You know what I'm saying? Just the understanding that I get. And I'll say this one part. When I remember when I became an atheist, I said to my great grandmother, I said, you call her Nanny. I don't believe in God. She said, they call me Jay. She said, you have to have faith. That was it. She didn't bother no more. We talk about that anymore. But when I got older, came back to faith. Man, I said, wow. She said she knew something and her way of dealing with it was very reasonable. Very reasonable.
Oh, yeah, because that, the outcome is different for a lot of people if they said that to their grandma.
Yeah, great grandmother.
Oh,
I
yeah.
gotta say to my grandmother because she was born.
Yes. Like, what, boy? What you say?
And I want to say also that it was the women, really. Where I grew up and the way I grew up, if it wasn't for the women, I'd have been a different person. Because I grew up in a different environment, and it was the family, women, I would say, along with one of the women's husbands, which was a big part of it. He was the guy that made it so we didn't grow up over. They got us from over there, and let us grow up over here. If we would have stayed over there, it would have been a different life for all of us.
Alhamdulillah.
So I'm grateful for. So those are the things I think what the women brought, and I want to say more than because I grew up without a lot of father. No father really in the house, scantily. And the ones I was scared of was women, and I was more afraid of women who never touched me. But I was afraid of my aunt and my grandmother who never put their hands on me, but always showed a lot of love. But when they was angry, I didn't want them knowing I did stuff. You know what I mean? And they never actually hit me. You know what I'm saying? Mom's hit me. Wasn't afraid. His mom was once out there, grandma, son, I just want to say,
Alhamdulillah.
they definitely have beautiful brothers. They what I learned.
And you know what? Just hearing you guys talk like this, what's really interesting is because Islam has a lot to do with genograms. When you read the Quran, it talks about everyone's relationship, right? It talks about emotional relationships, even the issues that people were having during that time of the Prophet, peace and blessing be upon him. But family, and then again, it also clearly states about your bond with the woman, because today people are losing touch of how important the woman is, but with with the blessing of Allah, we birthed all of this. He allowed us to do these things, right? So that's just a powerful thing. I just wanted to just say all that. But anyway, back to, we're almost done. Back to the PowerPoint. So integrating ancestry work and within health and wellness. So this is how it's all coming together, right? It encourages families to talk openly about health histories, right? Using family patterns to guide self-care goals. Incorporate cultural pride and resilience into wellness plans. And combine with mindfulness, journaling, or therapy. So here's like a case example. A client uses a genogram to identify 3 generations of anxiety and perfectionism, unspoken grief following a family loss, and uses this insight to practice emotional regulation and boundary setting. So the result, reduced anxiety, improved communication, and better family connection. And that was what happened when we used the genogram together. So the wellness portion of the integration is applications in therapy or coaching services, so like family systems therapy, health behavioral change, narrative therapy, culturally grounded wellness work. Me personally, as a practicing clinician, I use decolonizing therapeutic approaches because the one-size-fits-all glove does not work with BIPOC communities. So I use culture in place, put it in center, and we work from there on out. So yeah. So the key takeaways to all of this is that your ancestry and genogram are maps of identity and health. Understanding patterns equals empowerment, and use family insight to break cycles and build resilience, because health and wellness are intergenerational journeys. That's it, see?
Well, that's a very important topic, and I've been, motivated, moving in that direction. And I wanted to ask you, how do you feel about AfricanAncestry.com? Because I did.
Africa Ancestry,
African Ancestry.
AfricanAncestry.com.
Yeah, that's on Gina Page and Dr. Kittles.
I have
Another one like
Ancestry.
Except they specialize in
Right.
African DNA, and they can tell you specifically what country and what tribe even that you have DNA compatibility with.
Well, there's this guy from Ghana. He knew about his whole family, and he did it to test it. And they said he was Cameroon, and he was like, no. So,
Well, I know Ancestry.com puts a lot of people in Cameroon, but they don't break down to other areas.
well, when I did mines was, okay, so with me, it was Benin and Nigeria, of course, because you got to think, a lot of these countries in Africa were all coastal. And you got to think of the slave trade. They didn't go deep into Africa. They just stayed right there along the coast. So what I did was I found like a 5th cousin. And what I did was because if you go on Ancestry DNA, I put Africa for the country for my relatives. And so all these people populated. So I reached out to this cousin of mine, and he gave me a whole story about our ancestors. They're from Lagos, Nigeria. The brother was, one of them he was like a king of their community. And it was interesting because I just remember his name was Abdullah, and I was like, Alhamdulillah, and he was like, no, he was not Muslim. In fact, he fought the Muslims, and I was like, oh, my bad.
They call God Allah.
Yeah, but
they're not. I don't think they're not consider themselves Muslim.
yeah, I thought
That's
he
just
was.
terminology.
Yeah.
They-
Yeah, I thought he was, and I felt like this small when he was like, no, actually, that he protected his people from the Muslims because, in the day, they came to, convert back, back in the day, and so they went to many wars. But then when he died and his brother took over the crown, his brother wanted to kill everyone in the family, which, gosh, he had like a lot of concubines. His brother, the king that died, King Abdullah, he had a lot of concubines, so he had a bunch of kids. And so when his brother took over, he had them all slaughtered, but most of them, but a lot of them ran off to Lagos because he didn't want no one else to take over after him. How much you guys hear like all these classic stories back then is like, I'm the last, there's gonna be no other after me kind of thing. Yeah, like one of those Black Panther moments, right? But yeah, that's what happened, and a lot of my ancestors are there in that particular area. So if you could find someone who you are related through DNA, that is very informative of the ancestry. Like I could tell you, he is from my father's mother's side of the family. It's good to buy kits for your elders to have them get it done. My great uncle got his done, so I know I'm related to both sides of his family, right? Everyone that he's related to, I got. And what's interesting is because you're only going to show half of the people that you're related to. So the other half showed up on my great uncle's ancestry DNA. That didn't match mine, but I know we're related, right? Because of he's my great uncle. But my bloodline is so diluted though, and he's in his 80s, so he got like a lot of relatives, whereas me, it's like I have like half natives, and you know what I mean. So that's why it's good to have, if you have any elders that you know that are still here, get their ancestry done. And also, just so you know, I just met my half uncle like a couple of years ago, because that's what my grandpa does. That's just like what you said, back in the day, they got around, and I have an uncle that is 60. And we met through ancestry, DNA. I even asked my dad, like, Dad, you think I got some siblings? And he didn't even lie. He said, you probably do. I don't know. That stuff do happen. And you'll be surprised. Like, my uncle, he was adopted. He didn't know his mom or his dad. I told him who his daddy was. So it's like a blessing to some people if you show your linkage, and especially a lot of people who have been adopted are trying to find that. So again, genograms could help. It helps us solve a lot of things, right? And therapists will use them. I use genetics, I use ancestry. I actually practice this with my clients because they need to see these things. They need to see the pattern of, some people are visual learners. So I do this so that they could see a pattern of their family, how their family functions. And once they see it from themselves, or they draw it, I challenge them to draw one of these themselves. So our next session, I have like a fully decorated, all kind of squiggly, they do it, and it's really interesting. And then they break it down to me and tell me what everything is. And that helps you understand relationships. We did this when I used to work for CPS. We did genograms. This is how we was able to, yeah. Yeah, of Fulton County. This is how we was able to place children with families. We did a genogram on. You have to do a genogram on every single case for a child to see who we could place the kid with if we have to. So that's how important they are. It's weird, huh? No, we create a genogram is because we're asking the families about other family. We don't tell them to create it. We actually will draw out a picture, and while they're talking, we're just like squiggly lines, disconnected. We do all of that so we could. Well, like, let's say first of all, it's for the courts. That's what they need. But we could place the child with like the father's sister, provided that she passes a criminal background check and things like that. Because we would rather the child go to the family, anyone in the family that is willing to take them and they're living good, before we send them off to foster care is like the last resort. So that's why we do genograms, because we go back 3 generations. And plus, nowadays grandmas could be in their 30s. I'm a new grandma and I'm 44, but I'm a new grandma. So it's like, grandmas aren't around. Multi-generational homes. My grandson and my daughter, they live with me. And guess what? I be at my mom's and we're going over my mom's house, and that's like 4 generations right there. So it does add up.
Thank you.
All right. I just wish I had a visual aid though, because I had everything showing.
Next time we'll make sure. We came up short because we didn't get it.
No, it's okay though.
I mean, man.
But y'all got those though. And if you guys are stuck, I have the memberships to Ancestry and newspapers. So like if y'all stuck on someone in your family, I do this just as a hobby. So I do not mind helping you guys. Just give me names, where they were born, because where they were born is not probably where they died at, right? So if y'all give me names, where they were born, whatever you could think of that relative that you're stuck on, I'll get back with you, promise. It's recorded, inshallah. I'll get back with you. Yeah. And Brother Yaya, I told you, send me some on was it your dad?
Yeah.
Send me.
Because he was an older person, and because of that, like, I can't get past that. I went to the archives. When I went to the archives, I just couldn't find it.
Yeah, so
And I
get
just
back
got
with
tired.
me on that.
I just got really tired, so I just said, put it away till later on. I'm trying to do other things now, but
Okay.
it's something I really want to know because it's important to me. I think it's important you've made it to other people too.
Oh yeah, I could go back to the slave owner. I'm that good. I could find a slave owner within like maybe an hour. So,
All right.
did you hear that, Brother Melvin? Oh, go ahead. Oh, close out, yes.
All right, inshallah. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. So glad that the sister could come and give us this information. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. وعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. I hope this got to everybody that did good information, and inshallah we'll talk another time, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Yeah, y'all just send me an email.
Yeah, we this, well, I can say now, it's not on